All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Higher Alignment Podcast. And I'm so excited because I have my client here with me today, Mr. Sean Mills. And actually, Sean and I actually have a history besides working together as client and coach, but we actually grew up in the same hometown in Wainwright. If anyone's listening, if they've ever heard of Wainwright, kudos to you. But it's been really cool connecting with him on this journey. And so, yeah, I'm just excited to have you here today, Sean. How are you?
I am great. Thanks so much for having me. It's been, it's been a long time since we've been able to connect, but I'm sure glad we did.
Totally. And I want to kind of start off with that about like, what you were going through at the point of when you reached out to me to start working together. But prior to that, I mean, we probably hadn't talked or like interacted in probably almost like 15 plus years, maybe longer. It'd been a long time.
Yeah, close to for sure. And I think it's, I think the thing is when you grow up in a small community like we did, you always have connection to everybody, and you follow along and kind of see how everybody's doing. And there's a lot of us kind of scattered all over the world, honestly. But I think the thing is that I started recognizing the posts in and around the content that you were doing, and having some awareness of kind of your career path and the time that you'd spent with Mercedes and kind of the transition that you had made. I was more curious around the transition from working in a highly competitive corporate environment and kind of joining some entrepreneurial minds and kind of getting into the world of coaching, and the burnout hit me. The burnout coaching was the thing that triggered me. I probably almost responded to your story 5, 6, 7 times. I just didn't pull the trigger just because, like, obviously, I think everything kind of boils down to timing. And I think at the time, I wasn't necessarily in a desperate place. I was just in a place where I needed a refresh on how to kind of think about what my life was and what's going on. And I think the thing is like for a guy like myself, I have involvement in probably at that time 4 to 5 companies, number of different roles, number of different varieties of working requirement. And when you're a doer and you are somebody who is high performing and responsive and kind of has kind of respect for those that has contacted you or reached out to you or kind of requires some sort of dialogue. I'm always one to accommodate that. And I think it just eventually, and I had a son who was born in June last year, which was a life changer for me. So I think just, reflecting on perspective and where I was at and some of the things, it was perfect timing to uh, get some reflection on what my life could look like with kind of some of the tools in your toolbox.
I love that you so eloquently laid that out because it's true when you're a doer, and the other aspect of that too is like when you're a doer, you're always doing for everybody else. You aren't really doing a whole lot for yourself. You know what I mean? And so then it's like what
Yeah.
like I appreciate you saying you almost responded 5 or 6 times there because it's true. And then the other kind of high performer mindset I always dealt with for a long time. I don't know if you did, was like I'll just figure it out myself. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
I'm used to figuring everything else out, so I'll just figure it out myself. But I'm glad you eventually did reach out there. So I would love, Sean, if you could share a little bit about like, so let everyone know what you do. Like you mentioned, you kind of have your hand in a handful of different companies there. So just like an overview of whatever part of that you want to share. So what you were doing or still are doing and what you're consumed by, and then just how that, I guess, how did you recognize that it was affecting you, the burnout, and how it was showing up either in your work, like professionally, but also personally too?
Yeah. I think so collectively, I've been in some sort of account management, business development, or manufacturing product line management style role, both in leadership and and actively kind of on the ground since probably the early 2000s. So I've been involved in the oil and gas world. I also am a PGA professional, but more so just on the business side. Me and a partner kind of have an online retail website, which is bigbuckgolf.com. I also basically the big project that we had kind of entrepreneured or started is we started a Canadian brand, private label brand manufactured golf car in the golf car space, both for the retail, so business to consumer, and the fleet space for business to business and the golf courses. So over the last 4 years, we've built and sold over 450 cars, starting to kind of gradually change that business into more of a channel partnership or a distribution model. So that's a large part of it, but been involved in purchasing, reconditioning, and selling oil field equipment, both process and artificial lift. And then I guess more recently have joined in partnership with a company called Primac Controls out of Estevan and Verdun and North Dakota. A private company that's been around since the 1960s. We're more in the electrical instrumentation and control space. Same idea though. We do have some channel partnerships and some distribution partners where we are the direct to consumer or direct to business supplier and distributor of a lot of these technical products. So you kind of combine all that together, and there's a lot on my plate, no question. And I think that all of that, along with becoming a dad and also being a good husband, it really requires reflection on. You cannot just live in a world where you just kind of do what you do and everybody else kind of just follows along with it. That's where you run into challenges. So I'm a firm believer of investing in yourself, investing in the opportunity to learn new tactics, read books. I mean, if you see behind me, I got a bookshelf full of both business books and some motivation and just generally just stories around kind of what people have done with their lives. So I just think that all of those things combined, you kind of reach a precipice of I'm tired, I'm a little bit exhausted. It requires some reflection, and I think the reflection was just clicking the link and kind of following that, and obviously, being that we knew each other too, it's a little bit more of a comfortable space to. I was curious about what it was that you had learned kind of in your world too. So it's really just a collective of all of those things.
Mm. And at the time, were you like, was there any, like, you mentioned being tired and obviously having a lot on your plate, so I can imagine how much mental capacity that was eating at, but like any like physical symptoms or indicators of knowing like, hey, like this just isn't sustainable anymore. Like I gotta, like, what got me here isn't gonna get me to the next point. Like I need to do something different. Like anything that was really like screaming at you, like, this needs to like change.
Yeah, I think like, I mean, as anybody who's busy knows, anybody who's listening to this, when you're busy, your diet falls to the wayside, your exercise falls to the wayside, your relationships become a little bit more distant. So for me, it was I'm tired and I'm quiet and I'm disassociating with um, a lot of the things that I could be doing that could bring joy. And I think that's the thing is like you know a high performance and focus comes at a cost. It does. If you think it doesn't, then you're lying to yourself. But it's how you manage that cost.
So well put. So well put. Because again, it's whatever path you choose in life is going to have some type of cost or sacrifices. And I always tell people
Yep.
it's like, it's about figuring out which costs and sacrifices are most in alignment with the life you actually desire, and what
Yep.
you really want. And, I so clearly remember when we first started, we were going through kind of like, what are we optimizing for in this journey? And you said this, and I repeated it to like every client I've ever had since then. You said, I want to understand myself so well that I know what it takes for me to perform at a high level. And it was so brilliant. You know what I mean? Because it was like you formulated like my own mission statement for me because that's essentially what I'm teaching people to do in this program, right? Like, I say all the time, I can't eliminate your stress. I can't say you're never ever going to feel like exhausted ever again. But the point in this journey is for you to learn your instrument so well that you know when you need to hit the gas, when you need to hit the brake so that it's sustainable and you can continue executing at a high level for a long time.
Yeah, and you know what? Honestly, it was the first month was the most impactful for us in those discussions. But the things that I can take away from that, or the things that I can kind of advocate for anybody that I know that lives in this situation too, is I mean, you have to reflect on, and you have to write down, and you have to reread, and you have to be that the journaling portion of just understanding is it's a reflection based on what a previous self has viewed things as. So the thing that I found impactful is like the things that I was writing about, and we talked about this, but like the things that you write about and the things that when you reread them, you recognize that, you know, that's just at that moment might have been uh, it might have been something that was contagious in your mind that was just kind of running free, where it's really irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. And I think like the daily reflection on kind of understanding where you're at and how you're feeling, really, I was disconnected with my own self. I was connected with my own emotions. I was disconnected with um kind of what I've wanted to be. And when I recognized that, I realized the only currency that is non-performance based is time. So
Mm.
how do you I just wasn't managing it properly. And that was, for me, that was such an important thing, and it still is today, to this day. It's a daily reflection. It's man, it's impactful when you don't think about it. And that's the thing, is like, reflection is required. You can't travel long distance on an empty tank, right? So it's uh it's been super helpful.
Yeah, you nailed it. Like, and it's, again, back to that disconnect part. Like I always tell people, like, the root cause of burnout is disconnect. Right? Everyone thinks it's always because they have so much on their plate. And again, merit to that, of course, like, no doubt about it. You obviously had like a high level of demand and still do, but it's that distance between the version of you and how you're showing up right now and the version of you that's actually your true self and what you truly desire. And that disconnect between the two is where all the crap floods in: the
Yeah.
anxiety, the overwhelm, the overthinking, the sleepless nights, the not taking care of yourself. It's in that space. And so in that process, I love that you brought up the reflection of being able to do that. It's like every day you're gauging. It's like, okay, like, is that actually who I want to be? Is that actually the life I want to live? When I read back what I wrote down,
Yeah.
and that process of journaling, like, I know when I first started, and a lot of my clients, like, the thought of writing things down feels like, like, I don't want to do that. Like, because either they don't want to face the truth, they don't want to see it on paper, because once it hits pen to paper, it becomes a little bit more real. But B, like, when you're a high performer and you're in fight or flight all day, the thought of writing things down feels like, almost like, I remember I used to be like, this is taking too long. Like this is like a waste of time. Like I
Yeah.
have so many other things I could be doing. But when you think something versus when you put it on paper, it literally activates a different part of your brain. Right. And
Yeah.
so when you take the time to do that and quote unquote, slow down and put it on paper and then read back, like you said, it reads back completely different than it did cycling in your head.
Yeah, especially over periods of time, whether it be first month, second month, third month, things start to translate differently. The thing that's like the thing that I cannot stress enough, and that's the most impactful about all of this, is that when you're a busy person, just you thrive on being busy. You thrive about talk about being busy. You thrive about uh, living busyness. Like, you thrive in chaos almost. And the thing that is that we talked about, or that is the most like helpful around the understanding your central nervous system, when you slow down, your central nervous system is like, you actually have time to breathe. And by creating that space to breathe, you actually get to think. And then as your thoughts start to slow down, you start to bring creativity. And the crazy thing that happens is that you actually, as you slow down, you actually speed up in terms of actual progress, or um, getting things completed, or taking things over the finish line, or making decisions. You have to make space to be able to think. And if you can't think, then you can't answer kind of the required questions. And for me, like, it's honestly, it's crazy being able to slow down, to speed up. And you know what? Actually, later, as I started kind of reading, I had time to kind of read again, and I started reading. But the one of the common thread amongst the most successful people in the world is, it's not that they didn't garner a lot of experience along the way. They did, if and the lessons that they learned came with it. But the one theme, or the one message for anybody who's been successful, is that they were available and prepared when the opportunity presented itself that required the focus and attention for them to take their businesses or their life or things to the next level. And for me, that's the thing that hit home the most, is that if you if you are too dysregulated and busy and unfocused effectively, you can't receive the messages that the universe is giving you, whether it be from people or opportunities. And you'd be surprised at, if you spend time doing so much less, what actually just ends up coming your way in terms of opportunity. And then the decision becomes, you actually can focus on, is this something that I want to do? Yes or no? And if it's yes, then you can ask yourself why. But you can also, you can create some sort of a matrix on whether the opportunity is relevant enough to you or important enough to you, or gives you kind of the fire inside to follow that path. Or if you know right away, like, it probably is a good opportunity, but it's not a good fit for me right now, um, you can say no.
Oh, you just laid that out so beautifully. Like, absolutely. And that's like, you know that now going through this process, and I know that because I've taken so many people through it. But when you first start, the idea of slowing down again to the nervous system, like you said, feels terrible. It feels so threatening. It's like, oh my God, I can't slow down if I'm in fight or flight all day. Like, if I slow down, I'm going to lose my competitive edge. I'm going to lose like my ability to stay on top of things. Something's going to fall away. I'm going to miss out. And it's exactly that. Like, when you're below water, I guess that's the way you say it. Like, when you're
Yeah.
sinking, you have no capacity to take on anything else. And that's why I always say to people, like, if you're a business owner, if you're an executive, if you're in a leadership position, if you don't use your nervous system as part of your success strategy, like, you can't afford not to. That's honestly my opinion. And I
Yeah.
go 10 toes down every time. Like, if you're in any one of those positions that requires high level performance and leadership, you can't afford not to know how to use your nervous system to your advantage. And that's what you're expressing right now. Because before, when you're stuck in fight or flight all day, you think you're doing your best, but your nervous system's actually going survival mode, survival mode, survival mode. So it's not allowing you the space to slow down and, like you said, be able to think creatively, to problem solve to a more effective level. Like, that part of your brain literally shuts down. So until you can start to learn how to use the nervous system to your advantage, which means creating a space where you can actually turn that part of your brain back on, because it does shut off when you're in fight or flight. When you can turn it back on, like you said, not only does it create space to welcome in more opportunity, now you can see bigger pictures. The blinders come off, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, I missed this, I wasn't seeing this, we could create a solution from this. And yeah, it's like, people don't realize that there's like, we're always so focused on what's happening outside of us that if we learn how to use our own instrument better, it literally, everything around you starts to shift to match.
Well, yeah, that, and you start to bring joy back into your life. And I think if I'm reflecting on it, there's something that I was missing was, um, I didn't know why I was doing the things that I was doing. And when we talked about kind of reintroducing ourselves to our inner child, and kind of having those discussions around like joy and pleasure and what is fun, and like, yeah, I'm 40 now, but like, I still want to laugh, and I still want to enjoy my life, and I still want to have fun. And I recognize that as a dad now too, where it's like, the more joy that I bring, the more smiles I get, the more giggles I get, the more, and it's kind of the innocence in that, but like, it's such a simple thing, but it's so important, where it just gets lost. And it gets lost because this is the best way. And I love my analogy. So the best way I can describe it, and for anybody who's struggling or is not finding that joy, if your inner child was standing on the side of the road and they had a note for you where they had a message, they have something that's important that they need to share with you. If you're running or you're on a bike and you're traveling past that inner child at full speed, you cannot receive that message, and you will not be able to read that message either, whether you even get it. But if you're walking slowly and you're absorbing kind of what's around you, and that inner child has a message for you, you can receive it, and you can reflect on it, and you can turn and have that discussion to be able to address whatever that message might be. So that's the thing, is that by slowing down, you have the opportunity to receive.
So yes, so good. I love the analogy. It's so good. And like, and hopefully helpful too for like anyone, like sometimes it's hard for people to imagine their own inner child. But again, if you have a child, if you have a niece or a nephew, like again, if they were standing there trying to hand you something, like, you'd feel like an asshole if you didn't receive it. Like he's just trying to give you a gift, like, like
Yeah.
so well put. And again, it goes back to that, you mentioned again the slowing down so you can receive. It's also this, this conversation of work life balance often comes up a lot. And I always tell people, like, I don't believe in like equal time spent, because just as you said at the beginning, like there's going to be sacrifices, there's going to be costs. If you want to be great, like you're not spending equal time relaxing as you are working. It's just not reality, right?
Yeah.
But I always go back to, it comes down to how present can you be in the moment, right? And with whatever you're doing, if you're present with your work and you're there and you're dialed in and you're firing and wiring and everything's happening and clicking, it's a great feeling. If you're in that flow state with when you're at work.
Yeah.
But then same thing goes when you're at home. When you're at home with your wife and kids and you can be fully present and you're not worrying about work. Like if you can do that, I would say like 70 to 80% of your day just being fully present in the moment, then to me that's the balance that you're seeking. But just as you said, it requires that slowing down so that you can actually just be there to receive the note, to have the conversation in whatever capacity, and then like you said, you slow down to speed up, and it's amazing how that can all factor out.
Yeah, of course. The thing is that it kind of coincides with, we talked a lot about what the whole truth is, and kind of the truth to yourself and truth to your morals and your values, and kind of the what is the whole truth around, are you being honest with yourself? And I think the thing is that when also the continuation of being dysregulated or being burnt out, is that you've kind of suppressed your ability to navigate what your truth is. And it has like such a dramatic influence on your physical and emotional, and just kind of your well-being overall. And I think the thing is like when you start to suppress that, you start to lose a little bit of identity, and you start to become a person, or you know a representative of just whatever is good, whatever is good. You don't have an opinion on anything anymore. You're just trying to get it done, or you're just trying to get to a next phase. And that's the problem, is that you're always trying to get to the next um phase, or the next turning point, or the next moment, because you feel like, oh, once I get this, I'm going to be free, I'm going to have time for these things. Well, the reality is like it's just a continual operation, where it never ends up happening until you reflect back and you kind of slow down. And the thing is that even if you're busy, you can still do these continually in those moments, because really the priority, like, it's kind of understanding also, like, what's the priority, like, who are you doing it for? Are you just doing it for your own ego, or are you doing it for as a requirement for somebody else? Because I mean, most people you talk to, both in business and in life, are pretty understanding when it comes down to forecasting your time properly. So in my world, for example, the I have a lot of conversations, or I'll have a lot of meetings, or we'll have something. There's always a call to action. There's always going to be some sort of action item. There's always going to be some sort of work that's created. If you're going into a meeting and you're not creating work for yourself, then you're just going for coffee. So at the end of it all, really what it boils down to is that if you can then forecast your time appropriately for the demand in that meeting, and you can meet those deadlines, where you can either under promise and over deliver, or just do what you say you're going to do. That is the hugest skill that I've found amongst everyone. If you can do that, and it's still work in progress for me, because like there's variables in things that I don't know that come about, where I'm like, oh, shoot. So then I have to kind of go back. But forecasting your time in response to people in the business world, if you can just do it and just be honest with it, man, you're going to get so much further ahead.
Yeah, so well put on that truth piece, because the interesting thing is like, when you're at that position where you're the leader or the boss, whatever, and you're the quote unquote usually the major decision maker. Most people think that like, well, Sean's a go-to guy. He's going to know what to do. He's going to have the answers, and you do, but there's also this level of this mask being worn. right? And like you said, you're just kind of like, I just need to get through this, like, sure. And you kind of just like, again, you don't even really get fully involved. You're just like, what's the easiest decision?
Yeah.
And then, but so you have this mask of just like doing what you need to do to make things happen. But then like right behind that mask, you can literally feel yourself going like, oh, this doesn't feel good. Oh, I'm drained. Like, oh, why am I even doing this? Oh, I don't want to be here. Right. And it's just, it's that complete like that confliction and like again what you feel like you have to show up as and what you truly want. And I bring that back to what you said earlier about the whole joy thing and the chasing the targets. And it's like, again, we've all been somewhere where we're like, I'm going to work so hard for this. And then you get there and like what? You get like a day, a week, maybe a month if you're lucky of satisfaction. And then you're back to
Yeah.
like, so what's the next goal? But it's like when you're living your life that way, A, like you said, it never ends. And then B, it's like, who wants to live like what's the point of working this hard and accomplishing all these things if you don't feel any joy in the process? Like
Yeah.
honestly,
Yeah.
like if money didn't give us all these options and opportunity and we knew we could all equally be just as happy like making way less money and not having all these accolades, I think people would opt to do it. Honestly. Do you know what I mean? If you look, there's tons of studies about that, but it's just again, like what's the point of working so hard if you're not even going to enjoy the process?
And that's the whole point is that uh, it's kind of funny though too because like on that theme, it's always been do what you love to do. Like it's very rare that people are doing what they love. If I'm being honest, and the thing is like that's fine. That is totally okay. What I would say if anybody's aspiring to, if you're in a job right now and you don't necessarily love your job, but it's fine, and you're just kind of managing and you're looking for something. The thing is like don't don't do something. Don't necessarily focus on doing something you love. Do something that you're good at that pays you well, and the rest comes with it. So
Mhm.
it's a matter of and it's really the focusing on what makes sense for the time that you're going to spend doing it. And and for me, like when I, kind of how I evaluate things now, and this process has helped my evaluation process significantly because I'm coming from a clearer place. But often as an entrepreneur or business owner or somebody when you're trying to increase the size of your business or you're trying to get new customers, you focus on the money that you could make. You focus on just the whether it be high margin, low margin, whatever it is. And the thing is like you kind of end up in this position where you do anything that you possibly can. And I think if people realize it's actually counterproductive to do everything versus focusing on the things that you believe for the time value for the time that you've spent on it to produce the amount of profitability required to kind of keep yourself moving, that's growth. That is growth in a nutshell. Growth is not starting a business to just create a job for yourself where you end up working more hours than you did at your old job for less money, and that happens probably more often than you would think. So I think
Mhm.
like like how I evaluate things is I think about things in very mathematically in form of probability. And if there's a book actually that I read called Thinking in Bets, which is it's a good insight into kind of using probability and kind of using that in the moment to be able to forecast what you think may or may not be true. But the reality is like understanding you're going to be wrong. You're going to be wrong, and the I love being wrong because it gives me the opportunity to have gained some wisdom on kind of how do we get closer to being right. And it's just a matter of taking all of those things and factoring in, is my time and my energy worth the effort? And
Mhm.
if you believe it is, that's where the belief comes from. That's where the fire comes from. That's where the drive comes from. It doesn't come from if the that drive and that passion on the process creates the success. It doesn't come hand in hand. You can't just have like if you just get success and you don't have that fire from within to be able to work on the process on how we get better, it's not going to work. You're never going to get there. You're going to get
Mhm.
burnt out. You're going to burn yourself out.
Well, exactly, and that's such a great point too because it like 100% agree with everything you just said. And because I people don't realize that what actually burns them out is the over processing of said thing, right? So something that would only actually, like a task that would only actually maybe require 20% of your energy, now is taking up 70% of your energy because you're overthinking it, you're worrying about it, you're trying to be perfect about it, you're trying to control every aspect, you're trying to do too much. Do you know what I mean? And when
Yeah.
you're trying to, when you split your energy up in all these different places, and you're like, I'm exhausted and I'm not being as productive and I'm burning out. Well, it's because something that actually didn't require that much energy out of you is taking up so much more because there's so many tabs open in the background,
Yeah.
right? And so like when you can start to close those tabs, it simplifies things, it reserves your energy, and then it makes that process, like you just said, like, yeah, you might not love what you do, but you can at least find fulfillment in
Yeah.
what you're doing because you're not, like, again, just unconsciously wasting so much energy in the background.
And let me express something that's super important. And you know this because you've been in a business development role or you've sold things to people who want to buy something. So the energy you create in creating space for yourself and living in this world where you're true to yourself and you're working on these things, it creates a positive resonance of energy. And really, if you are buying something, just reflect on if you've ever made a big purchase. So if you yourself have bought a car, if you yourself have bought a house, if you yourself have bought jewelry or anything kind of value where you're really attributing the value of the money that you're spending is important to you. More often than not, I would say that when you make that transaction, you're doing it with a representative of whoever is representing that either company, brand, or product, that you trust them, you vibe well with them, you have a good positive rapport with them, you feel good about that decision, right? You cannot create that energy from a burnt out space. And you cannot create abundance with negative energy. Um, you can, but it's called old money. So the thing is that that's the thing when you are a business front or you're entrepreneurial or you're in front of your customers, is that the energy that you provide in talking about, people are less concerned about with what they're buying with, but they're more concerned about what are they getting and who are they buying it from. People buy from people, and it's whether it's B2B, business to consumer, retail, more often than not, you're buying from somebody who's created an environment for you that you feel good about giving them your money.
Yes. So glad you brought that up. That actual process has as a term called attunement, right? And so I actually
Yeah.
did a whole talk about this last year with a bunch of HR reps. And so the process of attunement means that your nervous system mirrors back the nervous system of the person you're doing business with. So I had done this whole talk about how, like, in sales, especially, like, just like you said, the reason people are going to do business with you is because they trust you. Point blank, period. That's the foundation of all of it. Price matters a little bit. Obviously, the product matters. Like, yes, those factors in, but you could have the best product and price, but if they don't trust you, they're not going to want to do business with you, right?
Yeah.
So this process of attunement is like, if I'm selling you something, if I'm anxious and overwhelmed and scattered beneath the surface, you are going to pick up on all of that, whether you even realize it or not, and whether I realize it or not. You're going to mimic that back to me subconsciously, right? So
Yes.
then, so then my opportunity to close a deal, could it potentially still happen? Maybe, yeah, but my chances go substantially down. And the crazy part of it is you and I aren't even aware that this is even happening, this exchange, because it
Yeah.
happens on such a subconscious level. And that comes through in your tone. Can you speak with a soft, grounded tone? That comes through. Are you fidgeting? Are you looking at your phone a lot? Are your eyes going all over the place? Like, can you sustain eye contact? Like, all these subtle physical cues that the body is giving off is literally lining up whether you're going to close that deal or not. And so it's not even just from a, like, us understanding that you want to do business with people, like, of course, but there's also a very, like, biological, physiological process happening as you're trying to close deals and sell things that you're not even aware that's happening. So if you're used to being dysregulated all day long, like, guess what the majority of your clients are going to show you back? That they're dysregulated and they can't trust you because you don't trust yourself.
Yeah. 100%. And a lot of that mistrust comes from not being prepared in those moments and in those situations. And that preparation comes from knowing what you're doing for sure. I think the thing is like ego gets in the way of that preparation a lot, because it's like you feel like you feel like there's you're not necessarily good enough, or you're not necessarily fast enough, or you're not necessarily priced well enough, and that attunement comes from the confidence in having. So if you're well prepared, it creates a level of confidence. That confidence builds the attunement, and then you're less focused on what it is that you're trying to accomplish, and you're more focused on listening and responding and understanding the place in which the person in front of you is coming from. And I find, yeah, too often that, there's people who are dysregulated. I catch it now. People who are dysregulated are trying to tell you everything,
Mm.
uh, and not necessarily just listening. And the thing that I've really focused on is, especially in moments with people, is like, because I mean I could talk for days. You know this for well, but I try and do a better job of just listening. I want to truly listen to what people have to say, solely because I'm just trying to gain some insight, or they might have something that I don't know. I think through this whole process, I've just learned that I don't really require to be correct. I don't require to be right. I don't need to have all the answers. I don't really need to know everything. I'm okay with being wrong. Being wrong is fine. It's just being wrong is a little bit of inexperience in a certain situation or subject. And it's the thing is like, I'm okay with that. And the attunement that I create is that if I am wrong, then I'm really keen on understanding. So help me understand, and let's have a conversation around what is the mark that I've missed, and what are some of the things that I can gain from that, because like that every bit of knowledge is applicable, in all situations. So it's all of those things combined to be a very valuable understanding of just your own self. If you can understand yourself better, there's no need to project.
That is such a testament to the work and growth you've done during this process, because that statement alone, like, I'm okay being wrong, just show me and educate me. Like, again, if we go back to the point when you were burnt out, or any of us are burnt out, I always tell people, like, one of the main indicators that you're burnt out is you're snappy, you're irritable, you have a lack of patience, right? So any slight challenge on you feels threatening, right? Whether someone's asking you a question, or like, giving you, like, maybe like challenging your opinion, or challenging your, your thought process or your work or whatever. And it feels so triggering, because we take it as a attack, quote unquote, on our worth, right? When we're
Yeah,
constantly in that, I need to prove myself, I need to prove myself, I need to prove myself all day long, which is exhausting and will burn you out. um when someone challenges that, even in the slightest way,
yeah,
it feels so threatening to us, that therefore we go into defensive mode. We need to prove that we're right, because from a nervous system perspective, if I'm not, quote unquote, right, that means I'm not worthy, and that means I'm going to be rejected from the
yeah,
tribe, on a very basic level, right? It's threatening your safety to belong to society if you're wrong, because now I'm not of value if I'm wrong. So I'm going to get outed. I'm going to get canceled. People aren't going to want to deal with me. I'm going to lose my job. Like, it literally feels like rejection on the deepest level. So then we go into having to prove ourselves. Where when you, again, going back to learn how to regulate your nervous system, learn what it means to be present in your body, learn what's really important to you and who you are and you want to show up, then you can step into the space of what you're just saying, like, hey, if I'm not right, just tell me what's up. I'm here to learn. I'm here to hold space for it, because now it's not a threat on your safety. It's not a threat on your worth, or who you are as a person, or your confidence. It's literally an opportunity that you can learn and grow from. But
yeah,
it's just, yeah, it's just such a great indicator of when you're really stepping into balance, and you're really like bridging that gap of disconnect, when it's say, hey, I can be wrong, and I don't feel threatened by it.
yeah. Yeah, for sure. The one thing, it's like this whole process has really changed. It's really changed my relationship with with alcohol, with food, with a number of different things. And I think, like, in our culture, it is very easy to, when you're feeling overwhelmed or whatever, we have a drink to relax. It's kind of been, generationally, that's just seems to be the vibe for it, right? And I think, like, I was very much that person, and I think in certain cases, over the years, probably could overdo it a little bit. But I think my relationship with alcohol has changed, where a lot of times, if I feel like I need a drink, I just need a walk, and I just feel like I need a break to give myself a moment. And don't get me wrong, like, I enjoy like a nice glass of wine, but I think the thing is like, the the relationship with alcohol, if you're using it as a coping mechanism, has more of an impact on your long-term success than anything else. I've actually, since we've started this process, like, I've actually talked with a lot of high performing people, some CEOs, and some board members and different things. And the thing that I find the most interesting is that none of these people really use alcohol at all anymore, just because it kind of it clouds their judgment and the way they kind of have to think. And that was impactful for me too. Is like, if I just kind of pulled, out of 20 people that I've probably talked to, you know, maybe 18 of them like don't really even drink. Period.
Wow.
And for me, like, it's a reflective thing too, just on my relationship with it. So I mean, if anybody that's listening kind of has that moment where they feel like, at the end of the week, like they need a drink, just know that the person that you are then might just need a bit of a break, and be able to, if you can turn that into a walk, whenever eventually you can kind of turn that into a short workout, or just getting some sweat, or hopping in a cold plunge, or getting in a sauna, or anything, your future self will thank you. And my future self often thanks my previous self, and vice versa. I often think about how the person that I'm kind of, or the Sean that's going to be 6 months from now, where are we going? I think you also have to give yourself some grace, every so often, in your reflections, where you can thank your previous self for kind of where you are now. Because I mean, I'll be honest, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be where I am with the clarity that I have, and kind of the inner, peacefulness and resilience that I've created without going through this process. It's, I've been through variations of it a number of times over the years, but you know, every professional athlete has a team of people around them. So if you are an individual and you feel like you're struggling, or you're not making any headway or any traction, you need to get a team of people around you. You need to make that investment.
Man, put that on a t-shirt. If I need a drink, that means I just need a walk. Man, like it's so true though. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Put that on a t-shirt. Like, but I'm again so glad you brought that up, because the I'm going to touch on two things. The first thing, the team aspect, like you're right. Like, and I always use that example. I know we talked about it many times. Like, if you look at any professional athlete, they have a team around them to make sure that they can perform at the highest level. They have a dietitian, they have a chef, they have a personal trainer, they have a mindset coach, they have a massage therapist. Like, there's no athlete that's like at a high level out there that you're like, if they don't have a team, you're like, what are you doing? Like, honestly, it would be a question. Like, do we really want to invest in this guy or this girl if she's actually not investing in herself?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that there's a lot of merit to that. And the second thing, I'm glad you brought up that alcohol piece, because it's so common. Do you know what I mean? Like, everyone deals with that to an extent, not everyone, but a lot of people. And I wanted to, kind of throw that question back on you, because we've talked a lot about in this process of like just that ability to say no more often, and what that does for you. And you've touched on it a few times, like no to the alcohol, but you mentioned it earlier too, with saying like, now when, you've created this space for opportunities to come your way, you're like, do I actually want to take advantage of this opportunity or not? And I know you've said in the past, you kind of went through a point where you're like, you're so confident in your business skill. You're like, I know I can kind of make anything work. You know what I mean? You're kind of that guy that I can add
Yeah.
value to anything I put my hands on. But I know when we were nearing the end of this, you're like, okay, but that's not what I want. I want to wait for the right opportunity.
Yeah.
I want the thing that's actually going to like again, time and energy wise, is it really worth it to me? And can I stick that out? So like, what has that process been like for you? Maybe you can talk on like what it was like before we did this, your ability to say no and how that was affecting you versus like now. Like what was the bridge between the two, and what are the two differences between those times?
Well, it comes, and let me preface this: it comes with a lot of trial, trial and error for sure. And I mean, I'm sure if you can imagine, just you sit around with a group of friends, and everybody's got a good idea until it comes time to do the work. And I think the thing is like I've sussed out a lot of whether it be kind of money making opportunities or ideas or things. And I think the reality of it is that had I said no more often or earlier, I'd be way further ahead than I am now, because like you say yes, and then you do the thing, you start the process, you start to generate a little bit of money, and there's always hope, like, oh, I think that we'll be able to get over this, or we'll be able to make up a little bit of this loss on the next one, and that sort of thing. And that's where hope and practicality don't they don't necessarily marry. And writing things down and sussing them out, and doing the math and kind of understanding the probability of what your revenue versus your cost is going to look like, and the amount of time that it takes, and all those things. But I think the thing is that if you say no, you basically say no until you've convinced yourself through your process that yes is worth it. And that's just it. It's that it's not that you're saying no just for the sake of saying no. You're saying no to manage your own capacity, so that when you say yes, you have full opportunity and bandwidth to be able to take that good yes to the finish line. And that's really what it is. It's just like, um some things are, and that's the thing, is like I've probably said no to some pretty good ideas, but for me, I just felt like it was unnecessary to try to be able to take on that type of project. And I just think that, like, you have to recognize that by saying no and holding your ground and owning your truth in what you believe to be true, whether you're right or wrong, you're gonna lose some relationships, you're gonna lose some people, but just know that eventually those people will kind of circle back and kind of are going to relate to you in a little different way. But that's the thing, is like you have to be comfortable with just what you believe to be true for yourself and for your family and for your own for your own sanity. Really, I think anybody out there in this world that has any sort of entrepreneurial mindset, you're always looking for something. You're always looking for an edge. You're always looking for something. And it's really, I think for me, Mintu, and what the biggest thing that I journal about and I write notes on is that my entrepreneurialism and my focus is not to create as much wealth in terms of financial gain. I just believe that that's going to that just kind of comes with it. That's just part of the process. The numbers are just the numbers. They arrive as to where they arrive at if your process is good. But for me, where wealth is created is it's creating time for myself to spend with my son as he grows up, and to be a good husband to my wife, and provide for the things that are the nice to haves in certain cases. I'm not really like a flashy guy by any means. I just really don't care about a lot of that stuff. I guess what I like to do is travel. So if I can create a life where I can see the world, that's all I'm doing. That's all I look for. I want a bit of freedom to be able to pack up and go.
I mean, so you just said it. It's that freedom aspect, and it's like that. To me, that's the true definition of success: is when a man or a woman can live their life exactly how they want to live it and spend their time exactly how they want to. That's the definition of success to me, right? To live
Yeah.
life on your terms, and again, it's that freedom aspect, and like going back to the saying no thing, like I always tell people, what you say no to is just as, if not more important than what you say yes to, especially when you're a yes person. And that means yes from like, with the people that I work with, when you're the guy or the girl that everyone goes to with their problems, as far as like, again, Sean will know how to handle this, Sean will know how to problem solve this, he'll have a good idea for this. And then your natural thing is, because you're used to helping people problem solve, you're always saying yes, like, yeah, I'll help you figure it out. Yeah, 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 yeah. So you're saying yes a lot. But then that's why it's so impactful when you say no, because just like you said earlier, the universe responds to that. That's still like, if we're trying to get the universe into alignment of what type of opportunity it's bringing you, when you say no, it goes, oh, okay, he doesn't want this. Okay, this didn't align. Okay. And it's narrowing down what exactly that's going to be for you, right? So just like you said, when you say no enough, that yes feels so impactful, and you can really embody the yes, because in that process of you saying no, the universe is eliminating situations, opportunities, people that aren't matching what you actually want to bring into your life, right? And it's just,
Yeah.
no is such a profound statement, honestly.
Yeah. And you, I want to kind of touch on something too, because it's like it's not just like a lot of this is kind of focused around, you know, like business and work and kind of your work life balance and things like that. But like the thing that's impactful is, um, we've all been there where we've committed to something in a moment. Like it's like you're sitting around and be like, hey, let's do this on this date. Like we're going to commit to it. Let's go, whether it be a trip or just like an event or whatever. And then the day before comes and you're like, oh my God, I do not want to do that. Ugh, that just sounds like a horrible, like I, I committed to this and I don't want to do it. So there's two parts to this that are important. One, in a dysregulated state, where you're either in or approaching or kind of in the thick of burnout, you, you more often than not say yes to all those things and you forget about them, and then it becomes chaotic and you get anxiety around, oh my God, I have to do this, but I have all this other stuff to do. So there's one vein is like, you know, it's a byproduct of your own kind of your own challenges. The second thing is that once you say no more often, you actually reflect on why you're saying no, or why this might be something that you would actually enjoy to do. So more often than not, like what I'm finding now is like, you know, early on I was just saying no to no to everything. I don't want to do anything. But now I'm like, okay, well, I actually do want to do that because I'm in a much better place to be able to be present in those moments with whether it be my friends or go to the event or do these things. Like I'm more well prepared, where day to day I kind of know, I'm kind of in the flow of what my day to day, week to week is just by reflection. So I'm actually saying yes to more things more often because I'm better prepared to be able to go and enjoy myself. And
Mm.
so knowing why you say no is just as important as saying no itself.
Yeah, it's all about the intention, right? Like what space are you
Yeah.
coming from it? And like you said earlier, is it coming from an empowered space? Is my no coming from an empowered space, or is my no coming from a desperate space? And same thing with the yes. Is my yes coming from a desperate space, or is my yes coming from an empowered space? Right? Like that makes all the difference. And just like you said, whether you're dysregulated or not, again, very impactful tool of the nervous system is going to determine the quality of your decisions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
amazing. Okay, well, we've covered a lot here, which has been awesome. But one thing I do want to ask you is, just now based on you going through this process, like, what is your recommendation for anyone who is feeling like you were once feeling, or who's maybe even considering working with me or going through this coaching process? Like, what would be your advice towards them?
Well, first and foremost, I think that you have to follow your instinct or you follow your gut. If you feel like me and you haven't clicked the link just to kind of be curious, eventually you will, because you've already kind of you're already missing a message that's trying to be provided to you. Second is, the big thing is like it's just a conversation around where where can you get some education on yourself. And I think the thing is like we often, like there's so many self-help books and there's Instagram pages, there's Facebook pages, there's things. um it doesn't do justice to doing the work. People want to save tabs and bookmark things and just, but you actually have to do it to understand what it is that you're up against. And
Mm,
I just think that for me, adding that team member and adding that knowledge base is far it's probably been the most impactful thing that I've done in the recent few years, where I've come out of it with tools in my toolbox that I reflect on nearly every day, that my future self is going to thank me for.
Well, I'm so honored I got to be a part of your team. That's a really like dope way to put that. So thank you. Thank you for letting me be part of your team. Okay,
You're more
well,
than welcome.
well, before we wrap up here, Sean, I just want you to like share with anyone, like kind of like what you got going on, anyone you want anyone to know anything about. I know you were just showing me your amazing new website for FTR before, but please plug anything that you want to plug where people can connect with you, your businesses, etc. before we finish up here.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, and so obviously, the our kind of our main project on the go is FTR Golf Canada, and FTR Golf Canada is we are an assembler, manufacturer, private label brand of golf cars, high quality, high service capacity. Check us out at ftrgolf.com. We've just launched a new website with all of our new models. There's lots of information on there. We've entered the dealership market, so you're going to start to see these cars pop up at a lot of your kind of local motorsports dealerships in your areas. We're also engaged in the PGA of Alberta and the fleet business in Alberta and Saskatchewan and kind of all throughout Canada. Actually, we're having discussions everywhere. So you'll start to see our cars at certain golf courses. So if you see the FTR, definitely tag us. And then in my oil and gas business, I've opened and brought a electrical instrumentation and control shop into Edmonton with a company called Primec Controls out of Estevan and Verdun, Manitoba. So a little bit of golf, a little bit of oil and gas, and yeah, a number of other things along the way. And then I guess the last one that I'm in partnership with is our bigbuckgolf.com retail website. So if anybody here is a golfer and they want to buy custom or off the rack clubs, wedges, putters, bags, anything you buy from Golf Town, you can buy from Big Buck Golf, and it supports a local community. And we do a lot of work in the local communities that we work in. So those are
Amazing.
kind of the primary ones, and a couple of my babies, and yeah, we'll see how wrong I am in the next 10 years.
Well, I'm sure you're not gonna be wrong. I'm sure it's gonna be great. And I'll get the links from you and put them in the show notes. So if anyone wants to check out those things, please do. But like for anyone who's listening to this, if you're like me, I always hands down want to support local homegrown products. And like I really like it's really admirable, Sean, what you're doing as far as like that's like I'm sure not an easy product or market to get into. And like the fact that you took that leap of faith and doubling down on yourself, like it just says a lot about who you are as a person. And so, yeah, I honored to be a part of your team, honored to be promoting your business. And if anyone's looking for any of these, products, please go do business with people who are local, who are, and, competing with the big guys. Like I'm all about it. So
Well,
I'll
thank you
plug you
very
in the
much.
show notes. Yeah, of course. Okay. Well, thanks everybody. We'll see you in the next episode. And thanks again, Sean, for being here.
Thanks, Mintu. Appreciate you.